It was a Tuesday afternoon when I realized something had shifted. The house was quiet, unnaturally still. My wife, Anna, was supposed to be home by now. I sat on the couch, flipping through the same book I'd picked up the night before. But I wasn't reading. My mind was somewhere else, trying to piece together the strange little moments that had been gnawing at me for the past few months. The missed calls, the distant conversations, the way Anna had started spending more time at work, telling me that she was just busy. I had heard it all before, but something felt different this time. I didn't hear the front door open, but I saw Anna's shadow in the hallway. She appeared in the doorway, her usual warm smile nowhere to be found. Her eyes were tired, distant, almost like she hadn't seen me in years. It struck me then, with the clarity that only comes in moments of sheer honesty, that I didn't recognize her anymore. Not really. She let out a breath as she dropped her bag onto the kitchen counter. "Hey," she said, but it wasn't a greeting. It was an acknowledgement, a polite gesture, like we were strangers in each other's space. I felt a pang in my chest. The weight of her indifference was almost suffocating. "How was your day?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, but inside I could feel the tension building. Anna shrugged. "Same as usual." She walked past me, heading toward the bathroom, and I stayed on the couch, watching her retreat. It wasn't that we had been fighting. We hadn't. We hadn't argued, but we also hadn't really talked. Not in a while. I could feel the slow erosion of the intimacy that had once made us. Well, us. It felt like I was waiting for something, for her to tell me what was wrong, or maybe for the bomb to drop. I knew it was coming. Later that night, she finally spoke it. She didn't say it with anger or bitterness. She just said it, as though she were stating a fact, something she had been carrying for a while. "You know this, us, this marriage, it's become unexciting." The words hung in the air. I didn't know how to respond. I could have laughed it off. I could have told her she was crazy, that she didn't know what she was talking about, that things were fine. But I didn't. Instead, I just stared at her, feeling a strange mix of disbelief and resignation. "Unexciting," I finally managed to say. My voice came out quieter than I intended. "What do you mean by that?" Anna didn't look at me. She was still fiddling with the remote control in her hands, flipping mindlessly through channels, like she couldn't bring herself to make eye contact. "It's not you. It's just everything. The routine. The monotony. I feel like I'm suffocating, you know? Like nothing ever changes. I want something different." Her words pierced through me like shards of glass. "Something different," she said. I could feel the weight of those words as they pressed down on me. Was she looking for something I couldn't give her? Something more exciting? More unpredictable? I was too calm, too stable for her, perhaps. And for a moment, that thought stung. I didn't ask if there was someone else. I didn't have to. Something about her demeanor, her words, it wasn't just about the excitement. It was deeper, a slow death of everything we had. I could feel it. I stood up from the couch, not knowing exactly why. It wasn't anger that surged through me. It was curiosity. Curiosity about what this meant, what had led us here. What exactly did she want? And if she needed something more exciting, something to break the monotony, maybe I could give her that. But not in the way she expected. I didn't speak right away. Instead, I walked toward the kitchen, opened the drawer where I kept the scissors, and felt the weight of them in my hand. The next few hours were going to change everything. I wasn't going to sit idly by. I wasn't going to beg her to stay. I wasn't going to do the thing that most men do when their wives say things like this. I wasn't going to apologize or try to fix it by offering flowers or sweet words. No, I was going to do something that would make her feel the weight of her own words, make her question what she thought she knew. By the time I returned to the living room, Anna had buried herself in her phone. She was scrolling mindlessly through Instagram, barely noticing my presence. That indifference, it killed me. But I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to plead. I wasn't going to be the man who just let her walk away. "You want excitement?" I said, breaking the silence. "I'll show you excitement." She didn't look up from her phone. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice flat. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I walked past her, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I took control of the situation. My heart pounded, my mind raced with every step I took. I was about to give her the shock she didn't expect, the shock that would jolt her from this apathy. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about hurting her. It was about showing her that maybe, just maybe, she didn't know everything about what was really missing between us. If she wanted excitement, I was going to give it to her, but not in the way she thought. This wasn't going to be some superficial act. No, this was going to be something that would shake her core. And it was going to start right now. The silence in the room felt thick, almost suffocating. I could still hear the soft tapping of Anna's fingers on the screen of her phone, completely oblivious to the storm brewing in my mind. What she had said, her admission that our marriage had become unexciting, kept echoing in my head. She wanted excitement. She wanted something more than what we had. But what was it that she was truly asking for? More adventure? More passion? Or was it simply that she had become bored with the life we had built? Whatever it was, I knew I wasn't going to let her walk away with that vague, shallow excuse. I wasn't going to let her believe that I couldn't be more than this unexciting version of myself. I took a deep breath, trying to focus. The first thing I needed was a plan. I needed to catch her off guard. I needed to do something that would completely throw her off, something that would make her see me differently, something that would make her realize that I wasn't just the predictable, boring guy she thought I was. I walked into the kitchen and stared at the clock. It was just past 9 p.m. She was still scrolling through her phone, her back to me. This was the perfect time to start. I opened the drawer where I kept the few things that had never seen much use. There were some old tools in there, a few random items, but one thing caught my eye. A small, forgotten box from our anniversary 2 years ago. It wasn't anything special, just a simple, elegant box with a key inside. I had bought it for her when I wanted to surprise her. But, like so many things, it had ended up buried in the drawer, never used. I stared at it for a moment, an idea forming in my mind. I had no intention of just confronting her with my feelings or trying to fix things with words. No, I was going to show her something real, something unexpected. I grabbed the key, slipping it into my pocket, and then I walked back into the living room. Anna was still engrossed in her phone, so I stood in front of her, blocking her view. She looked up, irritated at my sudden interruption. "What now?" she asked, her voice tinged with annoyance. I didn't answer right away. I just stood there, letting the moment stretch out longer than I should have. Finally, I spoke. "I'm not just going to sit here and be your boring husband, Anna." She blinked, her eyes narrowing slightly. "What does that even mean?" I reached into my pocket and pulled out the key. "I'm going to show you something. Something you never saw coming." Her expression shifted from confusion to curiosity. "What is this about, Roger?" I didn't answer. Instead, I turned and headed for the back door. Anna followed me, clearly unsure about what was going on. I unlocked the door, leading her outside into the cold, quiet backyard. The air was crisp, the night sky dark and full of stars. I walked over to the small shed at the edge of the yard and unlocked it with the same key. The shed creaked as I opened the door, revealing a small, hidden corner of our yard that she had never seen. Anna stood behind me, her curiosity piqued. "What is this?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Something I've been working on," I said, taking a step inside. "Something just for you." I motioned for her to follow me, and she did, albeit cautiously. Inside the shed, I had set up a small table, lit with candles and scattered with papers, ideas, plans, and things I'd been sketching out for months. Anna's eyes widened as she took it all in, and I could see the surprise on her face. This is what you've been doing?" she asked, her voice uncertain. "What is all this?" I smiled, finally turning to face her. "This is the excitement you wanted. Not just some random adventure, but something real, something that matters. This is my way of showing you that I can still surprise you, that I can still be the man you want me to be." Her expression softened, but there was still doubt in her eyes. "I didn't mean this, Roger. I just wanted things to feel alive again." I stepped closer to her, my voice dropping low. "This is alive, Anna. But you've been looking for it in all the wrong places. You wanted excitement. Well, now you've got it. But let me ask you something. Do you really think what you've been missing is just a spark? Or is it something deeper? Something you've forgotten about us?" For a moment, she didn't say anything. Her gaze lingered on the table, on the candles, on the ideas I had crafted just for her. And then, as if a dam had broken, she stepped closer. "Roger, I didn't realize. I've been so focused on what I thought was missing that I didn't see what was right here in front of me." But I wasn't finished yet. I wasn't going to let her off that easy. "No, Anna, this is only the beginning." I could feel the tension thick in the air between us, like it was wrapping itself around everything. Anna was standing there, staring at the table I had set up, her eyes flickering over the details, the plans, the candles. She was looking at it all, but I knew her mind was elsewhere. There was something in her face, a mixture of surprise and doubt. I knew she was thinking, questioning if this was real, if I was capable of doing something like this. I stepped closer, not wanting to break the silence just yet. I wanted her to feel it, to feel the weight of the moment. Do you think it's enough? I asked, my voice low, almost challenging. Do you think this is the excitement you've been missing? Anna's gaze flickered to me, then back to the table. She took a step forward, her fingers brushing against one of the plans I had laid out. I didn't expect this. I thought you were just going to say something. Maybe make it right with words. I smirked. Words don't fix everything, Anna. Sometimes you need actions. I could see it now, the doubt creeping in her eyes. It wasn't that she didn't care. It was that she had started to believe she knew me too well, and I was no longer the man who surprised her. But what she didn't know, what I was about to show her, was that I was far from predictable. I wanted to keep her guessing. I wanted her to realize that this, what I was doing, wasn't just about the plans, the little gestures. It was about the bigger picture, about proving that I could still be the man who could keep her on edge, keep her wondering what was next. You're right, I said, my voice softer now. Maybe this isn't enough, but it's a start. I'm just getting started. Her eyes met mine then, a flicker of something I couldn't quite place in them. Was it fear? Or curiosity? Whatever it was enough to make my heart race. She wasn't as unaffected as she wanted to seem. She was paying attention now. I don't know if I can just turn around and pretend everything's fine, Anna said quietly. I don't know if I can just jump back into this. I stepped closer, my eyes locked on hers. I'm not asking you to, but maybe you should start seeing things differently. Maybe the excitement you're looking for isn't out there. It's right here, with me. But it's up to you to see it. For a long moment, we just stood there in the dim light, the soft flickering of the candles casting shadows on her face. I knew she wasn't sure what to make of all this. And honestly, I wasn't sure either. But I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let this moment slip away without pushing her further. I had given her something. Now, I was going to make her come to terms with it. Do you want to know what comes next? I asked, my voice calm, almost detached. Anna hesitated, her eyes narrowing as she considered me. What do you mean? I took a step back, giving her room to breathe, but not enough to escape. I'm going to show you what true excitement feels like. Not just this, I gestured toward the table, but everything that's been missing. It's time for a change, and I'm going to make sure you see me differently by the end of this. She swallowed hard, but her voice was steady. What exactly are you planning, Roger? I gave her a small smile, leaning in closer. You'll see, but I'll warn you, it won't be what you expect. I could feel her pulse quicken, but she didn't back away. Instead, she stood her ground. This was exactly what I wanted. I didn't need her to understand everything all at once. I just needed her to be intrigued, to be drawn in. I don't know what to think right now, she admitted, her voice low. But I can't pretend I'm not curious. I could see the shift in her eyes. The walls she had built were beginning to crack. And I wasn't going to stop now. This is just the beginning, I repeated, letting the words settle between us. The excitement you're looking for? It's going to be something you never saw coming. Her breath caught in her throat, and I saw the faintest spark of something else, something deeper than curiosity. She was hooked, and I hadn't even begun yet. The night was unnaturally still, the silence hanging between us thick and heavy. Anna stood there, clearly uncertain, her gaze shifting between me and the things I had set up around us. She was trying to process it all, but I could tell she wasn't quite there yet. There was a spark in her eyes, but it wasn't excitement. It was more like confusion mixed with a touch of curiosity. I wasn't going to let that go unnoticed. I couldn't. You're wondering what happens next, aren't you? I asked, breaking the silence, my voice barely above a whisper. Anna's lips parted slightly, as if she was going to say something, but the words never came. Instead, she nodded slowly, her fingers still nervously playing with the fabric of her jacket. She wasn't running. That was good. I took a slow step toward her, the atmosphere in the room tightening. I know you're trying to figure me out, Anna, but you won't. Not yet. Not until I'm done. She blinked, her eyebrows knitting together, and for the first time tonight, I saw a flicker of something like genuine fear, flash across her face. But it was quickly hidden behind her usual composed demeanor. What are you talking about? She asked, her voice a bit shaky. I smiled to myself, watching the uncertainty unfold on her face. She was trying so hard to keep her walls up, but I could see them crumbling with each passing second. She wasn't ready for what was coming, but that was the beauty of it. I had planned this moment for so long, and now, it was time for her to experience it. "You'll see soon enough," I said cryptically. "But first, I need you to trust me." She looked at me skeptically. "Trust you? After all this, after everything that's happened?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I reached over to the small, almost forgotten drawer in the shed where I kept a few of the tools I hadn't used in a while. With slow, deliberate movements, I pulled out a small, sharp knife. I noticed Anna's eyes widen slightly, her breath catching in her throat. "What's that for?" she asked, her voice trembling now. "Just a little something to kickstart the excitement," I replied smoothly, my eyes never leaving hers. "Trust me, Anna. I know exactly what you need." I took a slow step toward her, and I could see her instinctively pull back, her eyes still glued to the knife in my hand. But she didn't run. Not yet. The uncertainty in her expression was still there, but now, there was a sense of intrigue. She didn't know where this was going, but she was willing to let it play out. "Roger, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with this," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know," I answered. "But that's the point. I wasn't going to hurt her. That wasn't the goal here. But I needed to make her feel something, to snap her out of the routine that had eaten away at us both. This wasn't about being violent or cruel. It was about shaking her up, making her realize that this wasn't just a regular night. This was something bigger. The knife hovered in the air between us, a symbol of the tension that had been building for months. But then, I set it down carefully on the table in front of her. "Don't worry, Anna," I said softly. "You're going to like this. You're going to love it." Her breath was shallow now, her mind clearly racing as she tried to decipher what I meant. But I could see that the walls she had put up were beginning to crumble. She was no longer certain. She was no longer in control. I stepped back, giving her space to breathe, to think, and then, just as she seemed to relax a little, I moved in. I leaned in close, my voice dropping to a low whisper. "Everything changes now," I said, watching her eyes widen in realization. She didn't respond immediately. For a long moment, we just stood there, the air between us electric. I could almost hear her heart pounding as she processed what was happening. And then, without a word, I reached for the next part of my plan. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I could feel the pulse of the night, thick with anticipation. Anna was still standing there, her gaze shifting between me and the knife on the table. She was frozen, unsure of what to do next, and I was reveling in the power of that uncertainty. This was what I wanted. Her completely off balance, questioning everything she thought she knew about me. Her eyes met mine, and there was something raw in her expression now. Fear? Curiosity? Or both? I wasn't sure, but I knew that her carefully constructed walls were beginning to crumble. I could almost see her mind racing, trying to piece together what was happening. I had given her enough to keep her wondering, but the game was far from over. "Roger," she finally said, her voice shaky but still holding on to some semblance of control. "What do you want from me?" Her words were like a challenge, and I could see it in her eyes. She wanted to know where this was going. She wanted me to make sense of the madness, to explain myself. But the thing was, I wasn't going to explain anything. I wasn't here to make her feel comfortable or to reassure her. I wasn't even here to make things right. I was here to make her feel something. To make her realize that the life we'd built, this dull, predictable life, was slipping away, and she was the one who had to face it. "I'm not asking for anything," I said softly, my voice just above a whisper. "I'm just showing you what's real, what you've been missing." Anna's expression flickered, and for the first time in what felt like ages, I saw a crack in her composure. It was subtle, but it was there. She didn't know what to think anymore. She didn't know if she should be scared, intrigued, or something else entirely. "You keep saying that," she muttered, her eyes narrowing. "But you haven't told me what any of this means. What do you want from me, Roger?" I stepped closer, letting the space between us shrink. Her breath quickened, and I could tell she was trying to stay calm, but it wasn't working. The tension was too much. She was unraveling. "Anna," I said, my tone firm now, "I'm not here to answer your questions. I'm here to show you what happens when you stop settling for ordinary. When you stop expecting life to be just another routine." Her lips parted, and I could see the struggle in her eyes. She was trying to process it all, to understand what I was doing, but I wasn't making it easy for her. That was the point. She had wanted excitement. Well, now she was getting it, but not in the way she imagined. I took the small step that would change everything. I leaned in, my voice low and steady. You've spent so long looking for something else, Anna. For the thrill you thought was missing. But I think you've been blind to what's right in front of you. She flinched at my words, but didn't back away. Good. That's exactly what I wanted. I didn't wait for her to respond. I couldn't. I had set this all in motion, and I knew that the next step had to be taken without hesitation. I turned and walked over to the small cabinet on the far wall of the shed. My fingers brushed against the lock for a brief second before I unlocked it, pulling out something wrapped in cloth. I could feel Anna's eyes on me as I walked back to the table, her curiosity now fully engaged. The cloth was heavy, and as I unwrapped it, the object inside glinted under the soft candlelight. It was a vintage watch. Not just any watch, though. This one had history. It belonged to my father. I'd never worn it, never even considered using it, but I'd always kept it in a drawer, untouched, untapped. It was the kind of thing that sat there, a relic from the past. But tonight, it wasn't just a memory. It was a symbol. I set the watch on the table between us, right in front of her. You wanted excitement, Anna, I said, my voice hardening. You wanted something different. So here it is. This is your chance to understand the cost of it, to understand what happens when you push too far. Anna stared at the watch, her eyes wide with confusion. She didn't understand. Not yet. But she would. Slowly, the pieces would start to fit together, and when they did, she wouldn't be able to turn back. This was about more than just the watch. This was about everything that had been left unsaid between us, the things we had ignored, the silence we had both been complicit in. This is just the beginning, Anna. I continued, my voice cold now, detached. You'll see. You'll feel what I mean soon enough. Her fingers hovered over the watch for a moment before she looked up at me, searching my face for some sign of what was to come. What do you want me to do with this? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Don't worry, I said, my smile almost imperceptible. You'll know what to do. Just remember, it's not just about what you want anymore. It's about what we need. The watch lay between us, its polished surface catching the dim light from the candles. Anna's gaze was fixed on it, her fingers hovering above it like she was afraid to touch it. Her eyes flicked up to mine, searching for something, an explanation, perhaps, or some sign of what was about to unfold. But I wasn't going to give her that. Not yet. She wasn't ready. She exhaled slowly, the sound almost too loud in the quiet room. What do you want me to do with this, Roger? She asked again, her voice tight, as if the words were hard to force out. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I leaned back slightly, watching her carefully. The silence between us stretched out, thick and heavy. I could see her mind working, piecing things together, but she wasn't getting it yet. She wasn't seeing the bigger picture. Not the way I needed her to. You think you've been stuck in a routine, I finally said, my voice low, deliberate. That everything's become boring, predictable. But the truth is, it's not just the routine. It's that you've stopped seeing what's right in front of you. What's always been here. I could see her brow furrow, her lips pressing together in frustration. She didn't get it. But I wasn't giving up. I needed her to understand that the excitement she was craving wasn't going to come from an outside source. It wasn't about chasing something new. It was about confronting the parts of herself, and us, that she had neglected. I reached forward and lightly pushed the watch toward her. The movement was slow, almost intentional, as if giving her time to back out. But she didn't. Her fingers brushed against the cool metal, and for a split second, I saw the faintest hesitation in her eyes. Take it, I said softly. It's a symbol, a way of saying that everything you think you want, it's right here. But you have to take the first step. She hesitated, but then, with a quiet exhale, she picked it up. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, I saw her face soften slightly. She wasn't completely sure, but she wasn't backing away either. There was something between us now, a shift, a spark. I don't understand, Roger, she said quietly. What do you want me to do with this? What is this all about? I smiled slightly, watching her closely. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. She was finally starting to see that this wasn't just about a watch, or a gesture, or some fleeting act. It was about showing her the consequences of what she had been asking for. You're going to find out, I said quietly. But you have to trust me. She looked down at the watch, turning it over in her hands, as if searching for some clue, some hidden meaning. I knew the wait would make her anxious. That was the point. The anticipation would wear her down, make her realize that this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about us. It was about pushing boundaries. You'll see soon enough, I added, my tone calm, yet filled with an edge. But you have to make a choice, Anna. Do you want to break free of the routine? Or are you too afraid to risk it? Her eyes snapped up to mine, the challenge in her gaze unmistakable. She was caught between wanting something new and not knowing how far she was willing to go. For a moment, everything felt suspended in time, like we were both holding our breath, waiting for the next move. The tension was palpable, the unspoken challenge hanging between us. I don't know if I can do this, she murmured, but there was a crack in her voice now. A flicker of vulnerability. I don't know if I'm ready. I stood there, looking at her, knowing that her hesitation was part of the game. She had to make the choice. And once she did, there would be no going back. You don't have to be ready, I said quietly. You just have to want it. The watch sat heavy in Anna's hands, the weight of it now symbolizing more than just a simple object. I could see the conflict in her eyes, the flicker of hesitation, and I knew the moment had arrived. She had always been someone who avoided uncertainty, who clung to the familiar, but now the very thing she sought, excitement, unpredictability, was sitting right in front of her. I watched her fingers tighten around the watch, her gaze flickering between me and the object. There was an edge to her expression, something raw, something that hadn't been there before. She was on the verge of something big, and I could feel the anticipation building. Roger, she said quietly, her voice trembling ever so slightly. I don't know if I can just throw myself into this. She gestured to the watch and everything around us, her voice barely audible. It's too much. I stepped closer to her, my presence looming, but I didn't touch her. I needed her to make the choice on her own. She had to want it. You've been saying you wanted something different, Anna. Something more. But when it's right in front of you, you hesitate. She swallowed hard, and for a moment, I thought she might back down. But then, almost imperceptibly, she raised her head, her eyes meeting mine with a fierceness that hadn't been there before. It was the look of someone on the edge, someone who had finally stopped being afraid of what was next. I don't know if I can handle it, she whispered, more to herself than to me. I've spent so long keeping everything under control, and now it feels like everything's unraveling. I watched her carefully, letting her words sink in. This was the turning point. She was acknowledging the very thing I had been trying to make her see, the need for change, the urge to break free. The more she fought it, the more it became clear that this was exactly what she needed. No one ever really wants to face the truth of their desires, Anna, I said, my voice low, almost coaxing. It's easier to ignore them, to push them aside, but when you do that, you lose something. You lose the chance to really feel alive. She bit her lip, uncertainty clouding her features for a moment. I could see her fighting with herself, the pull between staying in her comfort zone and stepping into the unknown. This wasn't about the watch anymore. It was about everything, the choice she was being forced to make. I stepped back slightly, giving her space, but I didn't leave her alone. I'm not asking you to jump blindly, Anna. I'm asking you to trust me. Trust that I know what's missing. Trust that what you're feeling, this fear, this doubt, it's just a step towards something more. Her eyes flickered, as if a thought had just clicked in her mind. For a moment, I thought she might speak, might tell me she was ready, but instead, she set the watch down on the table with deliberate slowness. The action, though simple, was enough to make my heart race. She wasn't rejecting me. She was taking control, making the decision herself. I'm scared, she finally said, her voice quiet but resolute. But I think I need this. I need to feel something again, not just the same old thing. I could see it now. She was ready, not for the safe, predictable path, but for the unknown. The edge she had been standing on was no longer something to fear. It was something to embrace. You're not scared of the unknown, Anna, I said softly, a smile tugging at my lips. You're scared of what you might discover about yourself. But trust me, once you take that first step, you'll never go back. Her eyes locked with mine, and for the first time in a long while, there was a spark between us. She had finally let go of her need for control, and in doing so, she had opened herself up to something more. Something unpredictable. Something real. I'm ready, she whispered, almost as if she were convincing herself. But you have to promise me one thing. I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. What's that? Promise me you won't let me turn back, she said, her voice steady now, a sense of resolve in her words. I leaned in slightly, my smile growing. I promise. And in that moment, I knew things would never be the same again. The room was charged with energy, a palpable shift in the air as Anna's words hung between us. She was ready. Finally, after all the games, the tension, the calculated moves, it had come down to this. And, truth be told, I was done playing. It was time to show her just how much I'd been holding back. The watch lay between us, the symbol of everything that had gone wrong, everything that had led us here. But now, it wasn't just about her. It was about me. And I wasn't going to let her take control of everything anymore. She'd wanted excitement. She'd wanted something to shake things up. Well, now she would get exactly what she deserved. You ready? I asked, my voice calm, but my mind buzzing with the thought of what was coming next. Anna nodded, her expression firm. I'm ready. I don't want to be stuck anymore. I don't want to just go through the motions. I smiled to myself. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the one where everything came full circle. For so long, I had been the one in the background, the one who let her push me, let her push our marriage into this hollow, lifeless shell. But no more. It was time for her to face the consequences of her choices. You'll get what you wanted, Anna, I said, my voice low but firm. But remember, excitement doesn't come without a price. Her eyes narrowed, unsure whether she should be excited or scared. But she didn't back down. I understand. I think. I stood up and walked over to the cabinet once more. I could feel her eyes on me, watching every move I made. When I came back to the table, I was holding something different. Not the knife this time, but the key to our future. The key to her reckoning. This is what happens when you push someone too far, Anna, I said as I held the key up in front of her. It was a small, simple thing, but in that moment, it felt like everything. Her face changed, confusion morphing into realization. What is this? What are you talking about? I didn't answer. Instead, I walked to the door, unlocking it slowly, letting the sound echo in the silence. When I turned back to face her, I could see the faintest trace of fear in her eyes. She didn't understand yet, but she would. I'm done playing the role of the guy you thought was too predictable, I said, walking closer. You pushed me into this corner, Anna. But now, I'm walking away. I could see the panic start to rise in her face as I made my way toward the door. Wait, Roger, please don't go. We can fix this. We can. But I wasn't listening anymore. I stepped outside and shut the door gently behind me. For the first time in a long time, I felt a strange sense of freedom. It wasn't just the act of leaving. It was the realization that I was finally taking control, finally choosing my path. As I walked down the driveway, the weight of the past few months seemed to lift off my shoulders. I had given her the chance to change, to realize what she had lost. But instead, she'd played games, had taken me for granted. Now, the tables had turned. She was the one left wondering, left dealing with the consequences of her own decisions. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was for sure. I was free. And as for Anna, she would have to learn the hard way that actions had consequences. She had wanted excitement, had wanted me to be something I wasn't. But now, she would feel what it was like to be left behind, to face the emptiness of the life she had tried so hard to escape. And in the end, maybe that was the greatest lesson of all. The real excitement, the real change, had always been within me.